In early January 2020, global attention turned sharply toward the Middle East when then-President Donald Trump authorized a high-stakes drone strike in Baghdad, Iraq. The target? General Qassem Soleimani, the powerful head of Iran's Quds Force, a branch of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps responsible for military operations beyond Iran's borders. The strike killed Soleimani instantly and triggered a firestorm of controversy both internationally and within the United States. The Trump administration defended the action as a necessary and preemptive measure to thwart what it called imminent threats against American diplomats and military personnel. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and other top officials insisted that Soleimani was actively plotting attacks, although the details remained classified, and many lawmakers, both Democrats and some Republicans, said the briefings they received did not provide compelling evidence of an immediate threat. The strike marked a significant escalation in tensions between the US and Iran, sparking fears of a new war in the region. As the dust settled, concerns quickly turned inward, not just over the strike itself but over how it was authorized. According to the War Powers Resolution of 1973, the president must consult with Congress before engaging in hostilities unless there's a direct and immediate threat to the nation. Critics argued that Trump bypassed this requirement and undermined a critical constitutional safeguard. This concern became particularly acute among progressive Democrats in the House of Representatives. Figures such as Representative Ilhan Omar and Representative Rashida Tlaib condemned the strike as an act of war carried out without congressional approval, and they began to call for accountability, up to and including impeachment. Their position was clear. This was a dangerous overreach of executive power that threatened not only regional stability but also the foundations of American democracy. They viewed impeachment not just as a punitive measure but as a necessary check on what they saw as the president's reckless and unilateral use of military force. However, the broader Democratic leadership, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, were hesitant to go down that road. At the time, the House was already embroiled in another impeachment saga. Trump's first impeachment trial over his dealings with Ukraine, in which he was accused of abusing power and obstructing Congress. Initiating a second impeachment effort so soon after the first risked appearing overly aggressive and politically motivated. It also presented logistical and strategic challenges, especially with the 2020 presidential election on the horizon. Democrats were attempting to balance a tough line on executive accountability with the optics of staying focused on broader national issues. As a result, while the progressive impeachment push over the Iran strike generated headlines and sparked passionate floor speeches, it lacked the widespread support within the Democratic caucus needed to proceed. Instead of pursuing impeachment, Congress turned to legislative tools. The House and later the Senate passed a War Powers Resolution aimed at restricting Trump's ability to launch further military action against Iran without explicit congressional approval. The measure even gained some bipartisan support, a rare occurrence in the polarized environment of the time. Senators like Mike Lee and Rand Paul joined Democrats in expressing concern over unchecked presidential military authority. However, President Trump vetoed the resolution in May 2020, and Congress was unable to muster the two-thirds majority needed to override the veto. This sequence of events exposed the limitations of congressional power in the face of an assertive executive branch. It also underscored a broader trend in American politics, the slow erosion of legislative authority in matters of war and peace, a process that has accelerated in the post-9/11 era under presidents of both parties. The decision to shelve the impeachment effort also had deeper implications. It reflected the difficulty of translating moral outrage and constitutional principle into actionable political consequences. While many lawmakers were disturbed by the strike and the precedent it set, they recognized the practical challenges of holding a president accountable in a sharply divided Congress and in the midst of a national election campaign. Public opinion was also mixed. While many Americans opposed further entanglement in Middle Eastern conflicts, there was no widespread public outcry demanding impeachment over the Iran strike. This lack of a unified national response further dampened momentum for more aggressive legislative action. In retrospect, the incident raises critical questions about the future of American democracy and foreign policy. If a president can order a potentially war-provoking military strike without consulting Congress and face no formal consequence, what limits remain? How can Congress reassert its constitutional role in matters of war? And what safeguards exist to prevent similar overreaches in the future? These are not theoretical questions, they go to the heart of the US government's structure of checks and balances. The episode also highlights a broader issue: the challenge of holding presidents accountable when institutional norms are eroded, political will is fragmented, and public attention is fleeting. Ultimately, the effort to impeach President Trump over the Iran strike was shelved, but the debate it sparked remains deeply relevant. It served as a case study in how modern presidents wield military power, how Congress struggles to rein them in, and how political realities often blunt constitutional remedies. As new administrations take office and face similar pressures, the unanswered questions from January 2020 will continue to shape the boundaries of executive authority and legislative oversight for years to come.